Hello, you're on the Reddit Reveals channel. I didn't open my present this year, because by the time it was my turn, I had a fistful of divorce papers and a living room full of people clapping like someone just saved a puppy from a fire. Let me say that again. My wife handed me divorce papers on Christmas morning in front of 11 people. Then her mom poured mimosas. Her brother literally said, "Let's ing go," and chest bumped someone. Her dad patted my shoulder like I just lost a high school football game. I just stood there, in my pajama pants, with syrup on my shirt, holding the gift I spent 3 weeks preparing for her. A gift that, once she opened it, made her face melt like wax in a microwave. No intro, no flashbacks. I'm not giving you the Hallmark version. This isn't about how we met. This is about the moment a woman detonated her marriage with the confidence of someone tossing out expired yogurt. And I know what you're thinking. There must have been signs, Curtis. She probably tried to talk to you. You're not innocent in this. I'm not. Trust me, I'm not. I'm the guy who once brought home a blender for her birthday and forgot to remove the price tag. I can't hang a picture straight. I cry at dog food commercials. But none of that explains what happened on December 25th at exactly 8:42 a.m. when the love of my life handed me an envelope and said, without blinking, "I think this is for the best." Then sat down, crossed her legs, and sipped her drink like she just paid off a mortgage. Everyone stared at me, waiting for something. For me to shout? Cry? Ask why? But I didn't. I just handed her the gift I'd wrapped myself. Gold paper, silver ribbon, a card that said, "For when everything else is fake, this is real." I told her, "You might want to open this before you sign anything." She smirked. You know the kind. That slow, smug, "you're so predictable" kind of smirk. Then she peeled the paper, lifted the lid, and when she saw what was inside, the color drained from her face like someone pulled a plug. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Her mom leaned over and looked inside, then gasped. Her brother muttered, "Wait, what is that?" Marlene. Sorry, *M. Now. She rebranded herself last year, just stared into the box like it was glowing. I finally said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "You wanted the truth? There it is. Merry Christmas." And that's where this story really begins. Not with the divorce. Not with the affair I hadn't even told her I knew about. Not with the lies, or the gym memberships, or the locked phone screen. No. It began when she realized what I'd been doing every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 3 months. She didn't say anything for a full 30 seconds. Not a word. Not a breath. Just sat there on the edge of the couch, hands trembling slightly, staring into the gold box like she'd just pulled a severed finger out of a cereal box. Her family leaned in, confused. No one understood what she was looking at. But I did. Oh, I did. Inside the box was a small, matte black USB stick, resting in a velvet jewelry pouch. No label. No note. Just that little device, and a copy of a gym attendance log I printed out the night before. A very specific log. One that showed check-in and check-out times at Silverhawk CrossFit every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 4 months. Times that directly contradicted what Marlene had told me. The gym she said she never really had time for. The one she canceled the membership at months ago. Except she hadn't. She just thought I was too stupid, too passive, too whipped to check. And maybe I was. But 3 months ago, on a rainy Tuesday, I walked past her phone while she was in the shower and saw a notification from someone named Clark Silverhawk. No message, just a calendar reminder. For 7:10 p.m. She told me she was at a coworker's birthday dinner that night. Something cracked in me. I didn't confront her. I didn't scream. I just started watching. Quietly. Carefully. Like a man gut-punched by reality and still trying to stay upright. I started tracking her gym visits using an old friend's login, someone who still worked security there. I logged timestamps, video footage, entry scans. Every Tuesday and Thursday, like clockwork. And at 6:58 p.m. out at 9:12. Always with Clark. Always leaving 10 minutes apart. Always looking just a little too content. And that USB? That wasn't just the logs. It had clips, audio, screenshots, messages she thought she deleted. I didn't plan to do anything with them. I didn't even want revenge. I just needed her to know that I knew. Without yelling. Without violence. Without turning into the monster she always joked I could never be, because I was too soft for conflict. So I gave her the gift on Christmas Day. in front of her family, after she handed me divorce papers like it was a birthday card. And now here she was, frozen, completely caught. Not a single fake excuse or gaslight phrase ready to fly from her lips. Her mom leaned closer. Marlene? What is it? What's in the box? Her brother gave me a half laugh. Bro, what did you get her? A flash drive of love poems. I didn't look at them. My eyes stayed locked on hers. I know, I said, calm as I could manage. Every Tuesday, every Thursday, you told me you were taking care of yourself. I just didn't know you meant like that. She opened her mouth, but all that came out was a dry, panicked breath. Then she closed the box slowly, like hiding it would erase it from existence. Can we talk? She whispered. Oh, you want to talk now? I said. You didn't want to talk when you brought your whole family here to celebrate my humiliation. You didn't want to talk when you lied about the gym, or the hotel in June, or the client dinners you forgot I knew the locations of. Her dad stood up then. All right, Curtis, maybe let's keep this civil. Sit down, Marlene snapped. Everyone stared. It was the first time I'd heard her raise her voice all day. Just sit down. That's when I saw it. A flash of something in her eyes. Not guilt, not sorrow, fear. And I hadn't even told her the real twist yet. The one thing on that USB that made her actions look like more than just a midlife identity crisis. Something I found by accident. Something that I knew would detonate everything she built over the last 2 years. But that would come later. First, I wanted to see how far she'd go to cover it up. Because Marlene wasn't just cheating on me. She was lying to everyone in that room. And I was going to let her lie her way into a deeper hole. She tried to speak again, but nothing coherent came out. Just a jumble of syllables that died in her throat. Her hand hovered over the box like she was deciding whether to throw it across the room or eat it to erase the evidence. Her mom leaned forward, clearly panicking now. Honey? Is this something we should know about? Her dad, to his credit, looked like he was finally putting pieces together. And her brother? Well, he was still chewing a deviled egg, completely unaware of the glacier about to roll through their family Christmas. I stood up slowly, not to make a scene, not to shout, just to let my body catch up to the emotional weight pressing down on my chest. You want to tell them, I said, calm but razor-edged. Or should I? Marlene shook her head, but not like she was denying anything. More like she was begging me to stop before everything unraveled. That little USB was barely the matchstick. The real fire was what it proved, that the version of her she sold to everyone, the loving daughter, the loyal wife, the ambitious marketing director, was a curated illusion, and the cracks had finally reached the surface. But let me take you back a second, because I need you to understand just how deep this lie went. 3 months before Christmas, I noticed that our shared Amazon account had a new line item I didn't recognize. Not the hoodie. That came later. This was smaller. Subtle. A monthly charge for $14.99 from a billing company I didn't recognize. Normally, I would have brushed it off as a Prime Channel subscription or some app she forgot to cancel, but something about it bugged me. I clicked through the history. It wasn't connected to any video service. It was for a private messaging platform. Not WhatsApp. Not Signal. This one was encrypted and totally obscure. I only found it because I ran the transaction number through a payment processor forum. Why would she need that? I created a dummy account, paid for a month myself, poked around, and after some digging, I found out what it was. A service used by people who don't want to be found. Couples cheating. Politicians messaging donors. All off the grid. Now, I know how that sounds. Paranoid. Conspiracy-level digging. I didn't want to go there. But when your wife suddenly becomes obsessed with locking her phone, starts sleeping with it under her pillow, and accidentally deletes entire weeks of text history, your instincts sharpen. Or maybe they rot. I don't know anymore. The point is, the USB didn't just have gym logs. It had account info. Messages she thought were permanently gone. Screenshots. Some I couldn't even stomach. Voice memos too, like the one where she whispered to someone, I hate being around him lately. He doesn't even realize how easy he is to lie to. That was the one that broke me. Not the moaning, not the nicknames, not the videos. That one line. That dismissal of me as a fool in my own home. That was the moment something flipped. But I didn't tell her that. Not yet. Because I wanted her to sweat. Not to be cruel, but because I needed her to finally look at me as someone who wasn't just background noise. I wanted her to squirm like I did at 2:17 a.m. On a Wednesday, when I realized the woman I married had systematically dismantled the trust between us one fake excuse at a time. So back in the living room, I let her sit with it. I watched her entire family turn toward her, confusion morphing into suspicion. Her mother again, Marlene. What is this? What did he give you? And Marlene finally spoke. Not to answer, but to deflect. We shouldn't do this here. I smiled. Oh, now you want privacy? You could have mailed me those papers. You could have handed them to me in the car. Instead, you made it a holiday group event. You brought an audience. You made this theatrical. Her dad raised a hand. I think we should all cool off. I ignored him. Marlene, just answer the question. Should I plug the USB in and show them? Or do you want to start explaining? Her hand shot out, grabbing the box, clutching it like it was a grenade. She looked at her mother, her father, her smug brother now suddenly staring at his feet. She looked at me, and then as she said it, with a quiet, desperate voice. I messed up. 3 words. That's it. That's all she could muster. But what she didn't know, what no one in that room knew, was that the USB wasn't the worst of it. Because I had a backup. One she didn't know about. And that backup? It was already sent. To someone she never wanted to hear from again. Her whisper hung in the air like a cheap air freshener sprayed over something rotten. I messed up. It was the first honest thing she'd said in weeks, maybe months. But it wasn't for me. That line wasn't for my benefit. It was a performance. A last-ditch pivot. She wasn't sorry. She was cornered. Her back was against a wall of her own design, and the fire she'd lit was now crawling up the wallpaper. She thought those 3 words would soften me. They didn't. If anything, they made it worse. Because I knew she was still holding out. Still hoping she could control the fallout. But what she didn't realize, what she had never considered in all her careful deception, was that she was no longer the one writing the script. And the next scene was already playing out, somewhere else. You see, the night before Christmas, while she was on the phone confirming a catering order, read. Fake call, phone face down, Bluetooth mic off. I was in the basement using my old laptop. The one she thought I donated to Goodwill last summer. I had no intention of doing anything with the USB directly. No public blast, no TikTok drama. I'm not built like that. But I sent a second copy. A curated package of everything I found. Not to her boss. Not to her parents. I sent it to her older sister, Audrey. Why her? Because Audrey is the only person I've ever seen Marlene scared of. Not physically. Not in a protective way. Emotionally. Audrey was the golden child. The one who never messed up, who always had her life together, who Marlene had once admitted made her feel like a backup version of someone better. The two hadn't spoken in almost 2 years. A falling out over something vague, inheritance drama after their grandfather died. I was never told the details. But what I did know was that Audrey worked in private security. Not police. Not FBI. Just high-level, high-salaried, corporate ethics enforcement. The kind of job where you can find things most people think are hidden forever. And I knew, for a fact, Marlene never wanted Audrey to see who she'd become. Not the cheating. Not the manipulation. Not the slow dismantling of her marriage like it was a boring jigsaw puzzle she'd lost interest in halfway through. So I wrote Audrey an email. Simple. Blunt. No embellishment. Hey Audrey, I know things between you and your sister haven't been great, but I figured you deserve to see this. I'm not looking for drama. I just want someone else to know what's really going on before tomorrow blows up in front of everyone. Merry Christmas. Curtis. I attached a zip file. Set it to auto-open at 10 a.m. Christmas morning, whether she clicked or not. By the time Marlene was clutching that box on the couch, muttering about mistakes and trying to control the damage, Audrey had already read the entire chain. Listened to the recordings. Watched the video from the parking garage. The one where Marlene wasn't just cheating. She was laughing, mocking, talking about me like I was a mail-order husband she couldn't return. So when my phone buzzed in my pocket that morning, I knew who it was before I even looked. Audrey, I'm coming over. That message hit me like a cannon blast wrapped in validation. Not because I wanted Marlene to suffer. That ship had already sailed. I just wanted someone from her side, someone who knew her, to finally acknowledge what I'd been swallowing alone. But Marlene didn't know Audrey was on her way. Not yet. So I sat back down, quietly, picked up a cinnamon roll from the tray I'd made, took a bite, and chewed slowly while everyone stared at her like she was some broken robot sputtering in front of a confused audience. Her mom was panicking now. Marlene, for God's sake, what is going on? I said I messed up, she snapped. Isn't that enough? No, I said, finally looking up. It's not. And I think your sister would agree. Her eyes snapped to mine. What? I took out my phone, showed her the last message. She stared at it, and her face did something strange. Not just fear, not just dread, recognition. You talked to Audrey? No, I said. I showed Audrey. And right on cue, like the universe was trying to time the drama just right. We all heard it. 3 loud knocks at the front door. Her face drained. Completely. Her hands trembled. She looked at me with the kind of betrayal she had earned 1,000 times over. Her dad stood up. Who the hell knocks like that on Christmas? I said nothing. Because Marlene knew. And I knew she knew. The knocks echoed through the house like thunder in a chapel. Every head turned toward the front door, but I didn't move. Neither did Marlene. Her body froze. Not in that usual caught doing something wrong way, but like a cornered animal who knows it just heard the sound of the trap closing. Her mom instinctively reached for her wine glass and knocked it over. Her dad stepped toward the foyer, cautiously, as if the air had suddenly thickened. Even her brother, who still hadn't fully grasped the gravity of the situation, muttered, "Is someone seriously coming over now?" The second set of knocks was louder, more deliberate, controlled, professional. Marlene stood up so fast, she nearly kicked the box off the coffee table. "I'll get it," she said too quickly. But I was already walking toward the door. She followed, reaching for my arm, her voice sharp and low. "Curtis, please, don't." I didn't respond. I just opened the door. And there she was, Audrey, standing in a long gray coat, snow dusted across her shoulders, black gloves, hair in a tight braid like she'd come straight from a movie set about cold revenge. She didn't smile, didn't flinch. She just looked past me, locked eyes with her sister, and said in the calmest, most cutting voice I've ever heard, "Merry Christmas, Marlene." The silence behind me was suffocating. Her dad hovered halfway between the kitchen and the hallway. Her mom clutched a crumpled napkin like it was a lifeline. Marlene didn't say anything. She just stepped back. Audrey walked inside without being asked, removed her gloves slowly, and surveyed the room like an investigator arriving at a crime scene. And in a way, she was. This wasn't just about cheating. Audrey had read every file, listened to the memos, watched the footage. She had context, and context changes everything. "I see you got the gift," she said, nodding to the box on the table. Marlene swallowed hard. "You had no right." "I had every right," Audrey snapped. "You dragged this man's name through the dirt. You lied to everyone. And don't even try to spin this as a complicated situation. I read the chats, Marlene. I saw how you talked about him. Like he was disposable. Like he was a burden. Like he was an idiot." Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. She spoke with the precision of a surgeon who already knows where the incision goes. "I didn't think he'd actually send it to you," Marlene mumbled. "This isn't your business." "No," Audrey replied. "But you made it mine when you used my name to rent a hotel room." That landed like a gunshot. "Wait, what?" Even I turned to her. "What do you mean?" Audrey reached into her coat, pulled out a small folder, and handed it to me. Inside were printed reservation details from a boutique hotel in Dayton. 3 different bookings under the name Audrey M. Cole. Same room number. Same business card on file. "I don't travel that often," Audrey said. "And definitely not to Dayton. But someone used my name, my ID number from an old shared cloud doc, and even my former work email to make it look legit. I dug into it last night. Turns out the person who checked in was Marlene. With Clark." The room tilted. Marlene's dad looked like he'd been slapped. You used your sister's name? To cheat?" "It was just to protect my privacy," Marlene tried. Audrey cut her off. "No, it was to create a buffer. You knew people might start asking questions eventually. So you used my name. You committed fraud. You broke privacy laws. You dragged me into your filth so that you could keep playing the perfect daughter while living a double life." "I didn't think you'd find out," Marlene whispered. "That's the problem," Audrey said coldly. "You never think anyone's paying attention." The room broke into chaos. Her mother cried. Her brother actually walked out the back door without a word. Her dad sat down, stunned. And I just stood there, watching the unraveling. Watching the woman who once told me she'd never lie to me even if the truth hurt, now crumpling under a web she wove with steady hands and absolute confidence. And even then, Even in that moment of complete exposure, she still turned to me and said, "You could have just let it go. You didn't have to ruin everything." That's when I realized she still didn't get it. This wasn't about me ruining anything. This was about her finally facing what she'd built. And Audrey wasn't done. "I didn't just come here to scold you," she said. "I came to deliver something." She pulled a sealed envelope from her coat. "Thick. Official. I work compliance now, Marlene. I know you've been using your corporate card for personal expenses. You've been sloppy." "What?" Marlene stepped back, voice cracking. "You didn't just betray your marriage. You violated your ethics agreement at work. I sent them an anonymous report this morning. They'll have it by the 27th. Marlene looked like she was going to collapse. "But hey," Audrey added, voice like ice. "Maybe Clark will let you crash at his place once you're fired." I didn't say a word. I just walked back to the couch, picked up my untouched coffee, and let it all burn. The room was silent after Audrey's final words, but it wasn't a calm silence. It was the kind that buzzed with the aftershock of a bomb. Marlene stood in the center like a ghost, arms hanging at her sides, face pale, lips pressed into a crooked line. Her mother sat in stunned stillness, tissues balled in her hand but unused. Her father's face was blank, but his jaw clenched so tight you could see the veins in his neck pulsing. Audrey had crossed her arms, watching like a hawk that wasn't finished tearing feathers off the carcass. I sat down on the couch again, this time without ceremony. I didn't need to say anything. I'd already said everything I needed. Now it was her turn. But she didn't speak. Not at first. Marlene just stared at the floor, blinking fast, like she was trying to recalibrate the script in her head. She wasn't someone who was used to losing control of the room. Her life had always been about careful planning, about managing perceptions, about being just vulnerable enough to seem human, but never so exposed that anyone saw the whole truth. Now there was no script left. Just her mistakes, and the growing realization that no one was going to save her. She suddenly turned and walked into the hallway. Her mother jumped up. "Marlene, where are you going?" She didn't answer. We heard the sound of a drawer sliding open, then cabinets, a thud, then footsteps again, harder this time. And when she re-entered the living room, she was holding something none of us expected. An envelope. A different one. Larger. Yellow. Unsealed. She walked straight to me, placed it on the coffee table, and said, "I was going to give you this. Later. After the papers." It was supposed to explain everything. Audrey raised an eyebrow. "Explain what? The lies? The betrayal? The fraud?" Marlene ignored her. She looked at me, her eyes red now, but not from tears. From pressure. Like something inside had finally cracked, and now it was all coming up whether she wanted it to or not. "Open it," she said. "I don't care anymore." I looked at the envelope. It had my name on it, written in her handwriting. Slanted, careful letters. There was no point refusing. I pulled out the contents, a handwritten letter, a small ultrasound photo, and a positive paternity test. My stomach dropped. Audrey leaned over. "What the hell is that?" I scanned the letter. My hands started shaking. The test was from 3 months ago. The letter explained that Marlene had gotten pregnant in August, but hadn't known who the father was. She claimed she didn't tell me because she wanted to protect me from the confusion. She admitted to getting tested behind my back. And the result? It was mine. I blinked. I looked up at her. "You were pregnant? With my child?" She nodded slowly. "I miscarried. 2 weeks after I got the results. I was going to tell you on Christmas, but then, I didn't know how. I knew I didn't deserve to." I felt dizzy. The room blurred. My throat closed like it was wrapped in barbed wire. There were too many emotions to sort through. Rage, grief, disbelief, betrayal, sadness, guilt, and a hollow sort of devastation that doesn't have a name. "You were going to hand me divorce papers," I said, voice hoarse. "And then what? Drop this on me as a parting gift?" She didn't answer, because she didn't need to. Everyone in the room knew this wasn't an apology. It wasn't closure. It was her final move. Her last attempt at reclaiming emotional power. A reminder that even in the midst of disgrace, she still had something over me. A piece of me that had already been lost, but that I hadn't even known existed. Audrey stepped forward, grabbed the envelope from my hand, and stared at the documents. "You kept this secret to protect him? Or to manipulate him when things got worse?" Marlene didn't respond. Her silence said enough. "I loved you," I said, and my voice broke when I said it. Through everything. Even when you stopped talking to me. Even when I knew. I still loved you. And you kept this from me. Her hands clenched into fists. She looked at me then, not with anger. With ruin. I know, she whispered. I know you did. And I killed it. I killed all of it. Audrey turned away, disgusted. Marlene didn't cry. She just stood there, trembling, eyes bloodshot, as if holding in a dam of pain she no longer had the strength to control. You win, Curtis, she said. But I didn't feel like I'd won anything. Because somewhere in the twisted wreckage of this marriage, a life had existed. Briefly, silently, a secret I never had the chance to hold. And the woman who'd destroyed so much had taken that, too. No one spoke for a long time after she said those words. You win, Curtis. Like this was ever a game. Like we'd been keeping score. As if the ruin of a marriage could be measured in points or clever moves or who got the last word in front of a frozen tray of cinnamon rolls. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I was staring at the ultrasound photo in my hands, a ghost of a future I never got to meet. I hated her in that moment. And I loved her in that moment. And I hated that both things could live inside me at the same time. Audrey paced the far wall with her arms crossed, trying to stay composed, but the tension in her shoulders gave her away. Her father was seated in stunned silence. Her mother stared out the window like she was hoping to wake up. And Marlene just stood in the center of it all, untethered, broken in a way I didn't think was possible for her. No more lies. No more smug confidence. Just guilt, real or staged. I couldn't tell anymore. Then the doorbell rang. No knock this time. Just one clean chime. And all of us jumped. I wasn't expecting anyone else. Audrey wasn't either. Marlene looked at the door with such terror that for a brief second, I thought it was the police. But when I looked through the front window, it wasn't a uniform standing there. It was a man, mid-30s, athletic build, dressed in a black wool coat, neatly styled hair, but with the unmistakable look of someone trying hard to stay calm. Audrey was the first to ask, "Do you know him?" I turned to Marlene. Her face had gone completely white. Not pale white, dead silent. Her eyes didn't blink. Her mouth twitched like she wanted to lie, but couldn't form the words. That's when I knew. She knew exactly who it was. I walked slowly to the door, opened it halfway, and looked the guy in the eyes. He looked past me instantly and said, "I need to talk to Marlene. Please. It's important." "Who are you?" I asked, my voice flat. He sighed. "My name is Cole. I don't want any drama. She told me to meet her here. I didn't know there was a family gathering. I wouldn't have come if I'd known." The name hit me like a brick. Not Clark. Cole. I turned back to Marlene. Clark was a decoy, wasn't he? Her mouth opened, but still no sound. Audrey stepped forward. "Who the hell is Cole?" I let him in. I don't know why. Maybe I was too numb to care. Maybe part of me needed to see this out to the bitter end. Maybe I wanted him to see what he'd walked into. Cole entered cautiously, looking around at the room full of tense strangers, but his eyes kept going back to Marlene, who still hadn't moved. He spoke directly to her. "You said you were going to tell him everything. You promised." Audrey spun toward Marlene. "Wait, he's not the coworker. He's not the gym guy. He's someone else." Cole looked confused. "Gym guy? No, I'm not." Then realization hit him, and he laughed once, bitterly. "Wow, you had others?" Marlene finally spoke, a whisper cracking in her throat. "Cole, I didn't expect you to come today. I told you not to." He shook his head. "You told me a lot of things. That you were getting divorced. That he already knew. That you were just waiting for the right time." Then he turned to me. "I'm sorry, man. I really am. I had no idea. I thought she was leaving you. She told me she just needed space, that it was already over." "She was lying," Audrey said, stepping in, arms crossed again. "It's what she does." Cole looked stunned. "I thought I was the only one. I thought she loved me." Marlene's knees buckled slightly. She grabbed the edge of the couch to steady herself. "I didn't lie to you. Not completely." "Not completely," he snapped. "You told me you miscarried our child. You said you were grieving and needed to do it alone." My heart stopped. "Our child." The room gasped. Audrey dropped the folder she was still holding. I stood there, frozen in place, realizing all at once that the test results, they could have been fake. Or that maybe there were 2 pregnancies. Or worse, 1 pregnancy, 2 candidates. "Wait," I said. "Are you saying she told you she was pregnant too?" Cole nodded. "She told me in October. She said it was mine. Then she disappeared for 2 weeks. Came back saying it was over. That she'd lost it. I turned back to Marlene. Is that true? Her silence was louder than any scream. Audrey stepped forward again, her face cold with rage. You told 2 men the same story? You used a miscarriage as leverage? Do you even know who the father was? I didn't know how to, Marlene stammered. Answer the question, I said. Was it mine? Or his? I don't know. And just like that, the bottom dropped out again. The tiny thread of connection I'd felt to that lost life, the last sliver of something real, was gone. Vaporized. Even that had been twisted, poisoned, turned into a chess piece on her board. Cole turned toward the door. You're sick. I don't care what you said anymore. Don't ever contact me again. He walked out without another word. Marlene sat down finally. Not gracefully. Not with control. Like gravity had yanked her down too fast. She looked up at me, eyes empty. I'm sorry. I just wanted to feel something. Anything. I didn't know how to stop lying once it started. You didn't want to stop, I said. That's the difference. The only sound in the room now was the slow tick of the kitchen clock, marking the end of what had once been a life. Audrey turned to me, her voice softer now. Curtis, we should go. You don't need to be here anymore. But I shook my head. I'm not done. Because there was still one thing left. One last reveal. And this time, it was mine. Everyone was still frozen, like time had slowed just for us. Marlene was seated now, deflated, holding nothing but the consequences of her own actions. Audrey stood near the doorway, a sentinel of truth, arms crossed, done arguing. Her parents remained in shock, as if they couldn't recognize their daughter anymore. And I was still standing in the center of the room, staring down at the ruins of something I used to call home. But I wasn't angry anymore. Not in the same way. There comes a point when the heartbreak burns itself out, when the pain stops being sharp and just becomes quiet. Heavy. Honest. I looked at Marlene one last time. Really looked. I saw the woman I married, buried under the version she'd become. Not evil. Just broken in ways I couldn't fix, no matter how hard I tried. I thought I could save her from herself. Thought if I just loved her harder, longer, quieter, that she'd come back to me. But people aren't puzzles. And sometimes, love isn't enough. I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out a small sealed envelope, and walked over to the coffee table. Set it down gently. This is for you, I said. Her eyes widened, confused, then cautious. What is it? A release, I said simply. I signed the divorce papers this morning, before you ever gave me yours. She looked stunned. I knew what was coming, I said. I saw all the signs. But I wanted to face it head on. Not to fight you. Not to beg. Just to finally let go. This isn't about punishing you, Marlene. I don't want your guilt. I want my life back. She opened the envelope and read the single sentence I wrote beneath my signature on the dotted line. You are free. And so am I. For a long second, she didn't move. Her hands trembled. Her lips parted like she wanted to speak, to apologize again, to make another excuse. But nothing came. I turned to Audrey. Can you drive me home? She nodded immediately. Of course. I said nothing more. Walked out the door without looking back. The cold air hit my face like a reset button. Clean. Quiet. Honest. I got into her car, and neither of us spoke as we pulled out of the driveway. It was enough just to leave. Halfway down the street, Audrey finally said, You didn't have to be that gracious, you know. I wasn't being gracious, I said. I just didn't want to become her. She nodded. Then, almost shyly, she added, You know, for what it's worth, you handled today better than most people ever could have. I had help, I said, smiling faintly. We rode in silence for a while. The snow was still falling, soft and slow, like it had been waiting for the storm to end. When we got to my house, my real house, the one I'd moved into 3 weeks ago without telling Marlene, I turned to Audrey and said, Do you want to come in? I have fresh coffee. The good kind. She smiled. You mean not the stale peppermint stuff your ex used to drink? I laughed for the first time in weeks. Exactly. She parked the car, and we walked inside. No chaos. No shouting. No secrets. Just 2 people sitting across from each other, sipping hot coffee in a quiet house, while snow fell gently outside the window. For the first time in a long time, I felt something I hadn't even realized I'd lost. Peace. Not revenge. Not victory. Just the quiet, powerful joy of finally being free.